Hey gang, what's going on? And welcome to Talking Vegas All Day with KA. I'm your host, KA, and on today's episode, we're going to discuss the history of the iconic Landmark Hotel and Casino. But before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, click subscribe, and punch that notification bell so you can get up-to-date information when we drop new episodes. And also, if YouTube's not your thing, you can listen to this episode on Apple, Spotify, and other major podcasting networks. My question for today, gang, is what do you remember about the Landmark? Maybe some of you guys have been going since the 70s and 80s to Las Vegas might remember it. I'd love to hear in the comments below what you remember about the Landmark Hotel and Casino. Let me know. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started on today's episode on Talking Vegas All Day with me, KA.
Let's go to Vegas, baby. Let's go tonight.
Right now.
Let's go to Vegas. We'll stay up all night. Let's go to Vegas. Let's get away.
So to give a little bit of context, the Landmark Hotel and Casino was located in Paradise, Nevada, east of the Strip, right next to the Convention Center in Las Vegas. Its original owner, Frank Carroll, purchased the property in 1960, and his original goal was 14 stories. That changed, and by the time planning had begun, Carroll had envisioned the hotel being about 20 stories tall instead. And that number of stories continued to grow when Carroll, inspired by the Space Needle in Seattle, envisioned it to be Nevada's tallest building constructed at the time and wanted a height of 31 stories, which would surpass the Mint's planned building renovation at their hotel downtown. So in 1961, Carroll opened a Landmark Plaza shopping center and a 120-unit apartment complex adjacent to the 31-story tower. The idea was at the time that the casino, the hotel, and the shopping area would give customers added value. They could go around, restaurants there, restaurants at the hotel, casino. And in 1962, called the $6 million Landmark, by far the most spectacular project out of several Las Vegas resorts that were under construction at the time. The Landmark is a destination to become the Hopkins, which was a hotel chain, of Las Vegas. So the idea was for this to become the luxurious, upper class, high rolling, grandiose hotel at the time. Its iconic design was going to be something for years to come. But Carroll initially envisioned this to really attract the high-class rollers. However, the Landmark was plagued by just strange occurrences and just never had good luck. While the planning process went smooth, it just really never had smooth sailing. Construction was stopped a year later in 1962, with the tower only 80% complete. And the reason was that the project took over 5,000 hours of legal work, had 40 lawsuits, and literally took 200,000 hours just to get that all settled out. All the stuff with the legal and lawsuits. And a lot of this just happened to be bad contracts, union disputes, financing, people not getting paid, the gaming commission, this and that. When I read this, there were just legal terms. I'm surprised this thing even got built. There were some code violations as this thing kept getting built. So finally in 1966, the International Brotherhood of the Teamsters, who we've talked about, mob connections, provided $5.5 million construction loan to finish the project. And that kind of settled all the fees issues. The Landmark was completed in spring of 68, at which point Carroll himself was charged with assault and battery and withdrew his gaming license. So now the owner doesn't have a gaming license. And even though the eventual charges were acquitted, the Landmark had no owner. That same year, it would finally get some financial stability when billionaire and Vegas icon Howard Hughes stepped in and purchased it for $17 million. The deal was finalized in 69, and it gave him his sixth Vegas resort. Now, we all talk about Howard Hughes. He had grandiose ideas for this, just like Carroll did. He wanted to make this even more extravagant, just like anything Hughes did. He was going to go all in. After Hughes purchased the property, rumor is he destroyed the original blueprints, just as eccentric as he always was, and he spent an additional $3 million to add his own touches to the resort before opening on July 1st on 1969. Right before it opened, a person attempted suicide by flying a stolen plane towards the Landmark Tower and pulled up just before hitting it. Obviously had a change of mind. The plane brushed the tower, but unfortunately crashed into the convention center and killed him. So, right before opening, now we're cursed with the death. More bad fortune here, folks. Luckily, the opening was great. Celebrities including Dean Martin, Cary Grant, Tony Bennett were in attendance for what the press considered the opening. The atmosphere was like a Hollywood movie premiere. So top dollar, you'd expect nothing less from Hughes. However, in the first week of operation, it didn't do financially well, reportedly losing $5 million. On its opening, the hotel consisted of 503 rooms, which would fluctuate to as high as 577 in the 70s and then dwindle down towards the career. When it opened, it had 400 slot machines on the ground floor, and then the second casino on the dome area, which I'll talk about in a second, on the 29th floor, was the first high-rise casino in the state, and that had additional gaming and slot machines as well. The Landmark's interior design was made by Vegas resident Leonard Howard England, who designed the ground floor to include a colorful and primitive Incan theme, which gradually changed over the years to a space age theme. The interior featured murals of the 8 wonders of the world, which at the time included the Landmark Tower. Hughes also, after he agreed to purchase the resort, built an island in the middle of the hotel's 240-foot swimming pool, which was the longest and largest island in a hotel. Now, I seen a couple pictures of it. It was pretty impressive at the time. It was a full-fledged island in the middle of this pool. So once again, Howard Hughes going all out, top-notch luxury, and some great theming. The Landmark Dome, which was the iconic part of the building, had views wrapped around the city. You could see it from every angle and was capable of holding 2,000 people. Included lounges, nightclubs, as well as the casino. At the time of the Landmark's opening, it had included a showroom, a coffee shop on the first floor, while the steakhouse and seafood were located on the 27th, and a Chinese restaurant located on the 29th floor. So they had some really unique food options. They had a lot of celebrities: Danny Thomas, Elvis Presley, Freddie Fender, and good old Frank Sinatra made some of their very first appearances at the Landmark. And in fact, Elvis, his movie Leaving Las Vegas, had a lot of scenes shot at the Landmark. However, with all of this great grandiose, the Landmark never really recovered financially, and it suffered problems, underwent several ownership changes after Hughes' death. Everybody had the idea to upgrade, make it more iconic, keep it going. The thing was, people loved it. People thought it was a great hotel. It just could never make any money, and that was the problem there. In 1978, it lost up to $15 million at that point. So in 10 years, it already lost that. And during the 80s, it was apparently losing $3 million annually. And late 80s, early 90s, the Strip started getting the mega resorts, as we know, and it couldn't compete. So eventually it ended up closing in August of 1990. And when it closed, the total estimated number of rooms was less than when it opened, at around 495 rooms. And then it sat dormant for 3 years. People were trying to buy it, upgrade it. My understanding is a couple people wanted to change it into like the new frontier, even put a brand new mega resort in there. There was a couple options, but nothing ever came to pass. In 93, the Las Vegas Convention Center ended up purchasing the property and would demolish it in 1995 to add approximately 3,000 parking spaces for its convention center. So implosion took place on November 7th of 1995, And the explosion was a big fireworks, spectacular event, and it should have been because it was featured in Tim Burton's When Mars Attacks. So if you see that scene in the movie, which I've seen this movie a couple of times where they attack Las Vegas and you see the landmark there, that's actually the demolition and implosion of the landmark in that scene. And a few interesting things about that. During setting up for demolition, crews found secret stairwells in the tower structure. So there were some hidden stairwells. Found that interesting. And then the 31-story was the tallest reinforced concrete building ever demolished in North America, and the second tallest building in the world to be demolished at the time. Now today, what is the history of it? Well, you can still get a little bit. There's an iconic sign across from the West Gate, and I've seen it a couple times. It's right next to the bus stop there. If you ever have taken the bus stop from downtown to the Strip at the convention center stop, there's actually a sign right there that says landmark, and it lights up at night, and that shows you basically where the landmark was. It was right there between the International and the Riviera. What's sad to say is the convention center has taken 2 out of the 3 properties. I hope it doesn't take the Westgate. But if you visit today, you're going to see a parking lot. So what are my thoughts on the landmark? Well, from what I've known about it, I've never been there. But what I vaguely remember is, of course, the pop art, the iconic stuff. You see it in media, old Vegas ads. Heck, the one book I'm reading right now, they talk about the landmark. Howard Hughes, that was kind of it for him. He kind of spent his final days around the landmark. So, you're kind of known for Howard Hughes, and you're also known for Mars Attacks, its unique structure. It sounded like a great place. So some of the people said the food was good. Wages were very good. And do I really wish it was still here today? And the answer is, well, it's twofold. One, I don't think it would survive today. With its glitz and flair, you got Resorts World would have opened up right there. You have the Wynn. It would have had a hard time. And just even being on that strip right there, it would have been hard to get to. Do I wish it was around though? I think anything's better than a parking lot. And I do think it would have been updated, renovated, maybe build a big tower to kind of do it. Look at Vegas World and the Strat. It's still around. So I don't think it would do well today, but anything beats a parking lot. But hey, that's all the time we have for today on Talking Vegas All Day. I hope you liked this episode. I had a lot of fun, and when I first wanted to do this, I was thinking about Howard Hughes and just what happened to this place. I figured it was probably he built this grandiose. I didn't know about the former owners, the financial part, the Teamsters, all that. I didn't know about any of that. And it's a shame that it had so much struggles. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Was it a good place? Was it a bad place? And hit that like button and click subscribe on the way out. And again, if you can't listen on YouTube, listen to us here on the pod. We appreciate everything. Both Jay and I love it. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm pretty active there. You can hit me up. Jay's sometimes hops in there, asks questions. We're just having fun. And that's what this channel's about, having fun. So we'll see you next time on Talking Vegas All Day with me, K.A.